Well, with the calendar finally shifting to July, focus also shifts for the Cubs, especially when it comes to the trade deadline at the end of this month. And joining me now to talk all things Cubs is MLB Network insider and field reporter John Paul Morosi. John, it's good to see you again.
Kacy, great to be with you. It has been a pretty ambitious start to the year there on the north side.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you spent some time in Chicago this past holiday weekend, and I want to get to that in just a moment. But first, the biggest shocking news of the day is that Seiya Suzuki nowhere to be found on the All-Star team roster. I mean, he's the league RBI leader, 6th in home runs. How does that happen, John?
Kacy, that's a great question, and I wish I had a good answer for you because I am right there with you. I'm right there with the whole city of Chicago. Seiya should be in Atlanta at the All-Star game, and I will say this. If recent years are any guide, there may be some number of injuries or other situations that come up. There are still some ways that Seiya could get to Atlanta between now and next Tuesday, so keep the faith, Cubs fans, but I don't think that you can tell the story of the 2025 Cubs and why they are where they are at the top of the National League Central without acknowledging you've got the best run producer in all of baseball on your team. So I'm with you and Chicago. Seiya belongs, and let's hope one way or the other that he gets there.
Yeah, well, all of Chicago is outraged, so I certainly hope so. But you were witness to a franchise record 8 home runs set on the 4th of July. What has impressed you most, I know you touched on it a little bit, about the Cubs' turnaround this season, and how sustainable do you think that current success is going into the second half?
Kacy, I think it is sustainable because when you consider the different reasons why they have been so good. Kyle Tucker is doing Kyle Tucker things right now. Pete Crow Armstrong, while he does chase maybe a bit more than some Cubs fans would like to have him chase, he is obviously a very productive player and someone that I think is a dynamic defender as well. You also look at other things like Seiya's productive season as well. I think he's gotten more and more comfortable in his role, but there's not really a lot of holes with this team. Bush continues to emerge. And the other thing that I think is important, and I actually chatted about this with Ian Hafner in the course of my trip to Wrigley, is that their defense is so good. He even described it, Kacy, in a way that we rarely ever hear baseball defenses described as suffocating. We hear that in football or hockey and sometimes basketball. We don't hear it a lot in baseball. But I think the reason is that there's just not a lot of green grass, it seems, out there when you're playing against a team that's basically full of gold glovers. So I think a lot of the opposition teams have now experienced this to where it's a very uncomfortable at-bat because of how great the defense is.
Yeah, and I was curious, too. We hear fans in Chicago chanting MVP, MVP. But from a national perspective, do you think his first half of the season that he's done enough to earn that title?
Well, he's in the conversation, I would say, Kacy, and maybe even Tucker could be in the conversation too. But I think in a lot of ways, PCA's defensive value right now, Kacy, is elite. And I think there are people around the game who, when they look at their MVP ballot, they're a bit more likely to take that into consideration and to look at the defensive component and to say, hey, maybe that vaults them up to the top. Because if you're playing center field, elite defense in the way that PCA is, there's a reason why at least Fangraphs.com wins above replacement has him as the #1 player in the National League. There may be an opening, if not necessarily to win it, at least I think to be on the top 5, be in the top 3, which I think would be a tremendous achievement for someone who at this time last year, Kacy, we're still waiting PCA to establish himself as an everyday consistent major league player.
I want to get to the trade deadline. What's your sense of the Cubs' approach at the deadline? Are they buyers like most people think, and how aggressive could they be?
Certainly buyers. And I had a conversation just in the last week with a high-ranking Cubs official who basically said, when you look at this team, acknowledging candidly, yes, pitching is where we have to do the most at the deadline, and specifically with the starting rotation. Matthew Boyd, a very deserving all-star, but you start to wonder if you went into an NLCS against the Dodgers, if you went in an NLCS against the Phillies, would you have a really solid second, third starter when the Phillies have an Aaron Nola or a Ranger Suarez or a Christopher Sanchez? Would you be able to counter them starter for starter? I think honestly right now the candid answer is no. Though I will say this, Cade Horton's start last week, which we had on MLB Network, was a really impressive one against the Guardians. If he's able to keep going deep into games like that with that level of stuff, Kacy, the Cubs, I think, could certainly carve out a postseason start for Cade Horton as well.
Well, John, I mean, I think Cubs fans are waiting on pins and needles, got to make more moves to get back to that 2016 level of play that we all saw. But, John, we know that you contribute to the Emmy-nominated show MLB Central. You can catch that weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, and also MLB Network's Showcase package. John Paul Morosi, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Kacy, thank you so much. All the best.